But first, King Charles has arrived at the London clinic ahead of his scheduled surgery. Buckingham Palace revealed last week the King had been forced to cancel a number of upcoming engagements for a corrective procedure on his enlarged prostate.
Charles will undergo treatment at the same hospital as the Princess of Wales, who it's believed he visited before being admitted today. Well, James Price is still with us, and also joining us is TalkTV royal correspondents Rupert Bell and Paul Sayer, founder of prostate cancer awareness charity Prostate. Rupert, right, give us the lowdown on what's gone on today, how long the King is likely to spend in hospital.
Well, maybe our doctor might have more of awareness of that, but I believe he's due to stay in for a couple of days following the procedure. It will be very much business as usual in terms of his workload from whether it's from his hospital bed or from recuperating wherever he does that, maybe at Clarence House or wherever. So business as usual. And as you say, yes, by all accounts, had a brief visit with the Princess of Wales this morning, who's obviously been in the hospital since last week following her abdominal surgery. So hopefully it is a routine operation. There are no surprises, and that he will quickly recover and get back on the road again, which he's very keen to do, despite the Queen saying that she would like him to slow down a bit. But that's not in his nature. But I think overall, though, by the fact that we all know what's going on, I think he's made a very valuable contribution to the prostate awareness and showing that like life, if you can, make sure you get the right treatment, get a chance, and nothing to be feared. So I think he's made a good contribution, probably bucking the trend of what royal sort of medical protocols have issued in previous times, but definitely a change of tack here from the King, which has, I think, been universally received very positively.
We've been childishly speculating whether or not he'll pop in to see Kate, Princess of Wales, who is, of course, in the same clinic recuperating after her abdominal surgery. So we'll perhaps come back to you about that in a second, Rupert. But if we can move over to you now, Paul. I mean, we've been prefacing most of our reports on the King's condition by praising him, because he didn't have to go public with this. He could have kept this secret, but he decided not to encourage men to get checked. I understand as many as 80% of men in their mid-70s may suffer from enlarged prostates. But before we get to that, Paul, could you tell us exactly what procedure, we understand it's a minor surgical procedure, what the King will be going through today or tomorrow, whenever it happens?
Sure. Just to correct Rupert, I'm not a doctor, but I do run a prostate charity. So the procedure is pretty routine. The most common one of these is done by laser enunciation, as they call it, which means that they go in through the urethra and ablate an area of the tissue from within the prostate, which gets pushed into the bladder and then removed completely. A catheter is inserted for anything up to a week. Sometimes an overnight stay is required, but it's pretty routine stuff. After a week, most people are free of the catheter and can just get on with their lives. What
about the discomfort, Willie? Is it painful? The aftermath, is that uncomfortable?
Not dramatically. Surprisingly, no. There is some discomfort, but obviously painkillers, just normal painkillers, will keep that under control in most cases. The catheter is quite often the most uncomfortable part of it. I've actually had a procedure on my prostate myself for prostate cancer some years back, and the catheter was in for a week, and I think out of the whole procedure, that was probably the bit I noted most.
Let's go back to that point that I was making a bit earlier. As I say, the King, Kate Middleton, or the Princess of Wales, she sort of had to tell us something was wrong, because we're not going to see her until Easter, so questions would be asked. The King could have done this very quietly, no one would have known, and yet he has decided to deliberately go public to encourage men to get checked. And considering, as I understand it, 80% of men in their mid-70s may suffer from an enlarged prostate, he's done a really good thing, the King, here, hasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Our inquiries just in the last week or so have gone up by about 60% from men now seeking to find out more about how they can overcome prostate issues. We're mostly prostate cancer, but there has been a massive surge in people just looking at general prostate issues. So take my hat off to him. I mean, he is the ultimate celebrity. So when somebody like that comes out and speaks openly, it can only be a good thing.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's not so often you have sort of fairly graphic mental images of things happening to the crown jewels, but we'll save that for later on in the night time. Paul,
all day.
I know. No, but it was, you know, catheters and the like. It's okay. Right, Paul, while we have you, what are the symptoms of people who might be suffering prostate issues, and what are the dangers if people don't go and get that checked out?
Right, well, the issues are the most obvious ones are difficulties urinating, slow flow, stopping and starting, pain when urinating. And the issue is the longer you leave these things, the harder they are to cure. So if you catch this early, it's surprising. You mentioned, I think, earlier about men over 70 having these conditions. It's men over 40 and 50 that can actually experience these. And if you can catch it at that young age, have the treatment, which is minimally invasive, it will save a lot of hardship later on, because it can get to a point where you can't treat it anymore if the prostate grows too large.
And is an enlarged prostate connected to prostate cancer, or can it lead to cancer, or are the two conditions completely disconnected?
They're not disconnected, but probably 4 out of 5 cases of an enlarged prostate don't lead to prostate cancer. So the majority of the time, it's just urination issues that we cause it's a discomfort. But prostate cancer, again, is a good point, because when the symptoms of prostate cancer emerge, quite often the cancer is more advanced. So again, it's not just a case of getting checked when the symptoms appear. Over the age of 50, you should be getting checked to see if there's any underlying conditions that need treatment.
Before I ask Paul about things such as how to prevent enlarged prostate, and I'm not going to do that this time of day, let's go back to Rupert Bell. Rupert, you know, what is it? I'm tittering here because we are talking about matters to do with genitalia and the King's genitals, but that's what makes actually him talking about this and saying what he's going into hospital for really quite extraordinary. He's not just breaking royal protocol about revealing that he's having some kind of procedure, he's actually told us what it is for. I mean, that's really quite brave for one of the most famous men in the world.
Yeah, look, medical issues can remain private. That, you know, private and confidential, doesn't need to share it with everybody. But I think in this case, there is a wider thing at play. And I think he's actually trying to prove in many ways that he has some part to play in on behalf of the country. And by highlighting this, it is only a force for good. I also think it has helped deflect some of the attention away from Kate's issue as well, because we obviously don't know what's going on there, but has been kept private. But we know that she had this surgery last week. So the King has sort of taken it very positively and is using his condition as a force for good, knowing that he's in the best hands possible at the London clinic. He's going to be well treated, and yet he wants to resume and show that by announcing that, look, get this done, I will get back on the road again pretty quickly, is a really positive thing. And I think it's a big step forward, because when you think about previous royal conditions, you know that X may have gone into the hospital, but you'll only get a sort of, for a routine procedure or something. You'd never get the nitty gritty. But in the King's case, he's been very open about it. And I think that is a mark of the way he wants to see his royal, a much more open approach to the passage of information about what he's up to and what is going on in his life.
Thanks, Rupert. Let's one last quick question to you, James.
Paul.
Sorry, Paul. James is here. Paul, how does a guy go about getting their prostate checked? Important to relay this information. I'm asking for a friend.
It's the GP. Just make an appointment with the GP and go and discuss. And they probably have multiple conversations a day on this subject. So it's going to be no shock to them. Just be frank and open. Just tell them what your problems are and they can help you.
Paul, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. That's Paul Sayer, founder of Prostate. And, of course, that was Rupert Bell, TalkTV's royal correspondent.